marketing expert, author, and life coach. And I'm so excited to have Ariane Tavakol from Switzerland with me. Ariane is a personal and brand reinvention architect, 4 times online branded content award winner, and founder of Discoveroutloud. Turning setbacks into comebacks is Ariane's strength. She works with executives, creatives, and stay-at-home moms from all walks of life. Ariane uses her 20-plus years experience to help entrepreneurs create new opportunities by teaching them the skills they need to adapt and adjust their brand to new conditions and realities. With her new method, Who is Your Brand?, Ariane reassesses, refreshes, and reinvents brands in a matter of hours. Welcome, dear Ariane, to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Esther. I'm so glad to be here as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's jump right into your story. I know you have some turning moments in your life. What has been the biggest one?
Yeah, I've had a few of them, and I have to say each of them had major repercussions in my life. But I guess the first one would be when I was 8 years old, back in Iran, when, in the midst of a revolution and a war, and my parents divorcing, and everybody having to move around and find new realities that they had to live within. So I then, with my mom, we moved to Paris. So I had to leave everything behind and start a whole new life, just the two of us, while the rest of the family was scattered all over the world, and take it from there. So I think that was the biggest turning point, because it really was the beginning of the rest of my life. Had I stayed in Iran, my life would have looked completely different right now. So I have to say that thanks to my mom and her foresight and her open-mindedness, I am now here with you today, having this conversation. So yes, I think that was probably the biggest turning point in my life.
I'm so happy you're here.
Me too.
And then there were other turning moments.
Oh, yes. I mean, since then, I have moved so many times. So then from Tehran, I moved to Paris and lived there for over 12 years, where I, completed my, high school, and then went to university. And then from there, I moved to Los Angeles, which started a whole new, sort of a life for me, completely different than what I would have ever expected. So I continued my education there, and I think LA really defined me as an adult and as a professional person. So I think it is there that I became me, at least, parts of who I am today. Of course, I am the collection of everything and of all my experiences from birth to now. But I think LA really sort of showed me some ways that to this day I'm using. So that was one big turning point. And then from there, moving to New York City and really having my dream job. So I think that was a major turning point, because that again completely expanded my horizons and moved me into even a better person and a more experienced person and a more professional person, I would say, in terms of what I wanted to achieve. And I always dreamt of living in New York, and so I made it happen, and within the amazing conditions. So I was grateful. So that was a huge turning point. Then my move to Switzerland, because I married a Swiss man. So we ended up here, which was, I think, looking back, actually, one of the biggest turning points, even though every turning point has been a big one. And I guess, as I said before, everything has been a collection of, it has connected the dots to who I am today. But Switzerland really pushed me outside of my boundaries and my comfort zone like no time ever.
Why?
And because I moved here knowing nobody, having absolutely zero connections to the culture, to people, to anything really. It was really like a blank slate that I had to start drawing on. And, and coming from a place where I had a really nice life, I knew who I was within my boundaries, I guess, having to start somewhere where I was a nobody, which was, daunting at first, but then I use it to as a stepping stone. So that was a setback that I used for a comeback, like I said in my title. So it really pushed me outside because I was desperate to doing something with my life and to integrating as best as I could. I'm not a quitter. I would never, like just quit and complain and either move back or just simmer in my own sadness and whatever negative feelings, because I truly believe that we take ourselves wherever we are, and it's up to us to make our life work for us and not the other way around. So it was really difficult because I had to figure out who I wanted to be, who I could be, and how I wanted to do it and what I wanted to do. So I learned that the how will come once you figure out the what. So my what was, I need to integrate it. I need a creative platform, and I just need to thrive. Otherwise, I would be a miserable person, and it would turn into maybe a divorce or a very unhappy relationship, and that was not an option for me. So I thought to myself, what can I do that I can do on my own without needing any connections and needing much money, and just having full liberty and freedom of choice and of doing. And I thought, why not start a blog? Even though initially I knew nothing about blogs. The little that I knew was not exciting to me. I worked in New York with the biggest creatives, with the top photographers, videographers, creative directors. They always asked me to pick up the camera and edit, and I always said no. So everything that I had said no before, because now I was desperate, desperate times, desperate measures. I'm like, why not? Let's just do it. So I started a blog about Zurich, and wherever I was going, I would take pictures and write about it. Very little means, and a little by little, I got a bit bigger camera, and I got more experience. And then sooner, then later, actually, I got connected with a lot of great people and agencies in Zurich, and that blog actually turned into something bigger than I could have ever imagined. And so I became, like people would recognize my name in my blog, and I was invited to amazing, interesting events where I could really rub shoulders with the tastemakers and opinion leaders of this world, whom I never even could have dreamt of ever meeting. So it was such a blessing, and I used that platform to really create my own reality and my own dream. So really, I created it from scratch, from zero to hero on my own, and I'm very proud of it. And then that then took me to where I am now, because it opened so many doors and opportunities, and also it also helped me to grow as a human being, as a woman, as a person, and look at things from a different perspective. And having studied sociology and psychology previously, coaching is something that comes naturally to me, because I just love to help people and pick brains, as we said before with interviews. I love that. And so, naturally I just got into the coaching world. And since I had moved so many times and I had to reinvent myself so many times, why not become a reinvention architect, right? Show people how to reinvent themselves or their brands. And so that's been my journey. And so I think, every step of the way in my life has been a major turning point. And the collection of all of them have brought me to where I am now. So really all the dots were connected perfectly to become, the Ariane that I am now. And actually Ariane in Greek is Ariadne. If you know about her, in the mythology, she's, she connected the thread. And so, it's a perfect fit for where I'm at right now.
Great, Ariane. When you think back now, coming to Switzerland, and you said, yeah, there were boundaries you had to overcome. And so which boundaries were
Oh,
the
well, so many things.
biggest?
I mean,
And how did you overcome them? What techniques or what tips
mhm.
did you use from people you knew at that time?
So first of all, I knew nobody. So I literally knew nobody. I just knew my husband, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my brother-in-law. So that was it. My husband had moved away many years before, so he wasn't too connected either. So really, we started from a blank slate. The boundaries that I was referring to, or the roadblocks, were simply being somewhere that I had zero, experience with, and I did not know the culture so well. I did not speak the language. I did not know anybody, and coming from the US with a completely different way of doing things and approaching realities and ideas, it was like I said earlier, it was daunting because coming in the US, everything goes. There's no fear. Failure is part of life. It's just part of the education. And very early on, I was told that fear is something that is not accepted here. It's really frowned upon. And so that is daunting on its own. And also, another thing that I learned in the US, you can make connections very easily. Are they long lasting? Maybe not, but at least the doors open much easier than they do here. Here, you have to have a network of people who trust you in order for them to, give space for you to, try new things or even buy into whatever it is that you're proposing. So those were major roadblocks. And financially, I wasn't working and I had to be careful to also my expenditure, right? So I wasn't, I had to work within also that boundary. And I was by myself. I had to figure out, my husband was doing his thing, and I wanted to find my own way on my own terms. And so also, like, comfort zone, it was easy for me to just stay home, be domestic and do my own thing and not have to challenge myself. But the comfort zone is not where I find most happiness. I mean, as my husband, who's Swiss, by the way, calls Swiss people, they're like, we're miserably comfortable because we have everything to be happy about. We have everything to make our lives comfortable. But when you're afraid of taking risks and when you're afraid of failing, then you don't live on the edge. You don't really get to experience the excitement of trying new things and learning new things. You keep yourself almost small just because you're too afraid of what could happen if something didn't work out. So I had also this in mind that I had to work with. And so what pushed me out is just, like I said, desperate times, desperate measures. I had the urge to be creative. I needed to figure out my way around here. I needed to make my own friends, make my own life, and in my own terms. And with what my limitations were, I was doing a lot of freelance jobs and so on and so forth, but I needed something that really fulfilled me. I had no idea what or how. I just knew why. And so that's why I thought, I have nothing to lose but trying this thing. But I didn't just start a blog just for me to journal my experiences. I really wanted it to become something else. So that's why, I was not shy at all. I reached out to everybody, to all the brands, restaurants, people, anyone that I could think of. And I would ask them if I could just interview them or go and experience, eat their food and write about it or take pictures. And, I just, because what did I have to lose? Nothing. They would say no, which would, okay, that would be it. But the best would be yes. And then that would be amazing. So, I try to live my life by that model, is that what is the worst that can happen? I don't always succeed because fear sometimes, creeps in, and I have to overcome it. But I think at the end of the day, really, what is the worst that could happen?
Mm.
If you get a no, your life is not going to change. It's just going to stay the way it is.
What tricks did you use to overcome your fears?
By doing, just by, the thing is, I say yes before I can think of why I should say no. And then usually within the next few seconds, I freak out. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But it's already too late because I put it out there and I committed to people. So for example, a very funny story, I mean, coming from LA, I'm used to driving all the time everywhere. And I don't know what happened. At some point, I get this real phobia of driving, especially on freeways, really like a physical fear, pain that I feel when I'm driving on the freeway. And we're in the car, my husband is driving, and all of a sudden I got an email from Ferrari inviting me to test drive the latest model, which is the fastest motor they had ever created. And I don't know, I'm said, okay. But then I'm like, oh no, my God, what do you mean? Okay. Oh my God. First of all, I don't even know how to drive stick because I come from LA. But, and then my husband's like, if you cancel this, I would be so mad at you. So I said, yes. And when I went there, it was really, really scary. I was together with people who have been race car drivers. I mean, and all of this. And we had to drive down the mountain, go on a racetrack, then come back up. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to survive this thing? And so at first I asked them, I told them my story, and I asked them to maybe someone drive me down so I get a feel for the car, and then I will do it. And then I did it. And then I drove on the freeway with a Ferrari, with 10 other Ferraris following each other, and you had to keep close for the image. I drove down up the mountain and I did it. And so I called my article Ferrari Therapy, which wasn't at all what anyone would have expected. But the thing is, success lies in action. We can think of ideas as all day long if we want, but they will always stay in an idea box unless we do something about it. So action, as Mary Forleo says, is the mother of all success. So that's the only tip that I can give anyone, is really to be in action. Say yes instead of saying no, and then figure out the rest afterwards, because it's tempting to say no because, what if this, what if that, what if I fail, what if I fall, what if this, and there's so many reasons why not to do something, but there's so many reasons why you should do something and try it out. Again, what do you have to lose? So the only tip that a technique, is just trust in the universe, and trust in yourself, and then also people around you, and just say yes, and unless there's clear danger, but other than that, what do you have to lose? So that's it. Say yes within the first few seconds, because after, I think, 3 to 5 seconds, that's when the brain, the mind takes over and the fear factor comes in. The first few seconds are your instinct, right? Your gut saying something. And after that, it's your mind. So you don't want your mind, because your mind is there to protect you from death. It is not there to help you take risks. It is not there to help you do crazy things. It's there to protect you, even when it's not, there's no reason to really protect you. So that's my tip.
You were talking about reinventing. You were reinventing yourself many times. If someone needs to reinvent herself, what would you recommend? Where to start?
First, really be honest with yourself and where you are right now in your life, right? So do a little inventory of where you are, and take stock of, like your life up until now. Was there a time when you felt most alive? And what did that time feel like, look like, taste like? And where is your life now compared to that moment? And so when you're being very honest with yourself, and you're ready, you're done with things the way they are, and you're ready to take action, and only when you're really ready to take action, then you can start, doing whatever you need to do in order to reinvent your life. And just so to clarify, reinvention does not mean throwing away everything you've done until now, all of a sudden becoming a whole new you. It's using everything you've had done, all your experiences, all your setbacks, all your breakthroughs, all your failures, all your successes that have brought you to this day now, and use them for a huge comeback, right? So it's really about adjusting yourself to new conditions and new realities, right? And then and pivot it, flip it, reframe it. And but you have to first be honest with yourself, and know how far you're willing to go to do the work, because it is not easy. right? So, you have to do the work. It's not just gonna happen overnight. And when people call me and they want coaching, my first question is, are you really ready? Because if you only half ready, it's not about needing, it's about really wanting, right? There's a clear distinction between needing and wanting. I can say, like, oh, I know that I need to lose weight, but do I really want it bad enough to start, doing what I need to do in order to lose the weight? Right? There's a very clear distinction. So call me when you're really ready, when you really, really want it, when there is no question that the pain of having to make the changes of not having the pain of having to make the changes does not supersede the pain of not doing anything about it, if that makes any sense. Or did I make it up and make whatever? If like it's just, it would be too painful not to do anything about it. And so you just have to be ready, be honest with yourself, take responsibility, be accountable for your part in things having gone wrong, your part for things have gone right, and not being a victim, but a victor. And just and going for it. But it helps to do it with someone else, obviously, because it's very difficult sometimes to see things from a new perspective and new point of view when you're just doing everything by yourself.
How do you get there to want the change?
You have to be in pain. Something has to, yes, I mean, things, you have to be in a place where you just cannot live your life like this anymore. When you're done with things being the way they are, when you're done feeling stuck, when you're done being the victim, when you're done not getting along with people around you, when you're done not just plainly surviving and not thriving. You have to be done, and it when you're done. You just, because there's no other way around it. You cannot live your life the same way anymore. You need to do something about it. So you'll know. I mean, you just know.
And if you had to reinvent yourself again, Ariane, which Ariane would come out of the dad?
Well, I just did it actually. I just reinvented again part of my life this past few months. Like about 6-7 months ago, I just hit a wall where I was on the verge of a burnout, and I just could not focus anymore. I couldn't read clearly. I couldn't retain. I was tired. I was filled with anxiety, and so I just really, really hit a wall, and I decided to just take time and take care of myself, my health, and I wrote about my journey as well. I documented my journey, how I felt, and the thoughts that were coming through my mind, and what I did for it. So I just took that time to really scan my body, my life, my emotions, and just one by one try to amend to them. So yeah, so I basically came out of it with a whole new outlook on life. I'm still not 100% where I would love to be, but I'm much closer to where I want to be than I was a couple of months ago already. And I created a whole new program based on what I had done before, which is unbelievable to me. It is so powerful, and I love it, and it just it works. And so I've used my personal life and breakthroughs and breakdowns and setbacks, and I have made a huge comeback. So this is my latest reinvention for myself, the one you speak to right now. So I came with it. So basically, the new model, which represents a little bit where I am right now, it's called "Who is Your Brand," and so that is the birth of the new me, if you will.
If you have 3 tips to give to our audience, which one would you choose?
Say no when you don't mean to say yes. meaning do not afraid to say no when you don't feel like it. That's like one powerful tool that I've learned a few years ago, which I have implemented. It is so powerful, it is so empowering, and it also alleviates so many misunderstandings and disappointments from different parties. It is really start saying no. It's all about how you say it. It's there's a whole art about how to say no without offending people. People can never be mad at your honesty. They can be disappointed, but they cannot be mad at your honesty. So one big tip, be in action. Stop always dreaming. Dreaming is amazing, but stop talking about stuff and just do it, right? Just do it. You have nothing to lose. Even if it doesn't work out, it's not about the end result, it's about the journey, it's about the process. Because you will never know where it's going to take you. You may have started at point A wanting to go to point C by going through point B, but in actuality, maybe because of things that you learn along the way, you will go to, F, going from B to M, going back to, it doesn't matter, it's just really about the unknown. Just be open, to whatever comes your way. Stop limiting yourself, really. Understand your limiting beliefs and work on them. Work on understanding where they came from and why, and try to really rewrite that story. The same way we wrote those limiting beliefs at some point in our lives and made them to be true, we can rewrite them to be actually like a benefit to us and not a drawback. So you can rewrite your story the way you want to. Again, it's not easy, but if you want it hard enough, if your will is strong enough, you can do it. So those are 3 tips. And maybe another one is, be mindful of what you consume in life, whether it be food or TV or the news, and also who you choose to surround yourself with, and what sort of a dialogue and you know uh, you have with these people. Is it serving you in a way that you want it to serve you? Or are these people actually uplifting you? Do you feel good when you're around them, or do you feel depleted? Because if you feel depleted, then that's a sign that you have to remove yourself from that scenario or space. So those are the more than 3 tips, but I think these are really essential in order to find solace, peace, and harmony with yourself first, and then with your community at a large afterwards.
Great. And where can people reach you, Ariane?
Yes, so they can find me on arianetavakol.com, on Instagram, Discoveroutloud, which is my blog. And they can email me anytime, and or subscribe to my newsletter and LinkedIn. Yeah.
Wonderful. So one last truth or one last saying for our audience, what would you give away?
One last tool, or I've been very much interested in the Stoic philosophy, Stoicism. I'm not an expert, but what I love about what I know is that I think, contrary to a common belief, I think that Stoicism is about being very dry and very stern. Actually, what I love about how they approach life is not how to be happy, it's about learning tools on how not to be unhappy. So do you see, there's a very fine distinction between it. And I love that approach because it makes you look at things from a very different way. And for an example, like, let's say you have a misunderstanding with your partner and you get very upset with them. Before you start screaming or getting into that space of anger, maybe close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine your life without them in your, there, and without them in there. Like, maybe something bad has happened, or maybe they're separated. What would that feel like? What would that look like? And all of a sudden, you have that realization that, oh my God, I would never want to be without them. And that overrides the anger that you just felt a few seconds later. So there are many, I love that stoic approach to life, because it really puts things into perspective. And look at the worst, not in terms of how we are used to looking at it, in order to see the best from the other side of it.
Beautiful, Ariane. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your experience of reinventing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me so much. It was a pleasure.